Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Walker. I am the Bytes Partner Alliance Manager. Thank you for attending our webinar today. This will focus on Microsoft SharePoint and is designed to show you the benefits of using pre-packaged intranets with ICS's solution called Flex. Bytes is the UK's leading licensed solution provider in the UK, and as such currently the #1 partner in the UK as measured by Microsoft for the number of Office 365 seats deployed. We're also the #1 partner in the UK for delivered Azure platforms, currently assisting 40% of all Azure consumption in the UK. To assist Bytes in delivering this success, we work with a number of specially selected partners for our partner ecosystem who provide specific, focused and highly skilled expertise in focused areas around the Microsoft Office 365 stack. ICS are a Microsoft Gold partner who have developed specific competencies around SharePoint, Yammer and OneDrive and have been working with Bytes for a while now. ICS provide solutions online as well as on-premise. On the webinar this morning will be Andrew Smith, the Solutions Director for ICS, and Andrew will take you through the webinar and will provide a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. I would now like to hand you over to Andrew, who will introduce ICS.
Thanks, Andy. And thanks for that introduction. So just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. The session is being recorded. We've got 45 minutes of slides and demo, and then if you could type your questions into the IM box, we'll pick those up at the end and cover off any queries or questions you might have at that particular point. In terms of what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk a little bit about intranets and collaboration, and we're going to talk about how automation is now becoming a key part of solutions that customers are purchasing. We'll look at the features and benefits of Flex, which is the software that ICS have developed. As I go through the demo and the slides, I'll talk to you a little bit about the customers that we've worked with and who have bought Flex and why they bought Flex, and then we'll talk a little bit about what is a good fit from a Flex perspective. So very quickly, as Andy said, ICS Solutions are a specialist Gold partner. We've been a Gold partner for over 20 years. We now focus on Office 365, but as Andy said, a number of our customers still have on-premise implementations. And we tend to work with organizations who are looking to derive value out of those Microsoft licenses that, as Andy said, Bytes have been very successful in selling. So we tend to work with larger organizations and in fact small organizations where they need the expertise that we can bring to bear. And we've really spent probably the last 15-20 years doing SharePoint related activities. For those of you who can remember that far back, SharePoint 2001 was in fact when the software first was released by Microsoft. So let me just explain what Flex is, because we're talking now about a software solution that runs on Office 365. There are clearly some constraints in terms of what you can and cannot do. So what we tend to describe Flex as two key points, which I'll show you in the demonstration. The first is its automation capability. So Flex is able to create Office 365 assets, and that's anything within Office 365, and configure them and set them up in a way so that it becomes an end-user self-service activity to provision those assets. And what are those assets made up of? Well, fundamentally they're based on SharePoint Online or SharePoint On-Premise, OneDrive and Yammer as the three critical workloads that we automate. And as you can see on the left-hand side there, we've got different capabilities within the product, and we've really described those around what people use the software to do. So we've got productivity, we've got extranets, so that's collaborating outside of your organization. Corporate communications are obviously very keen on publishing information internally, so that's usually the intranet. There's general purpose collaboration so that all of the employees can benefit from using it, and obviously there's quite a big drive in workforces these days to get employee engagement and to use some of the social tools. So what we are able to do is we take a series of those best practice blueprints, we put them through the automation engine, and they provision the solution onto Office 365 and make that available through the various form factors that you would expect a modern application to support, so that users can interact with them. So that's really what Flex is about. It's about taking a set of pre-built assets, templates, blueprints. Some of these assets are very simple, some of them are very, very complicated, and automating the provisioning of those through our Flex automation software, and then deploying those into Office 365 so users can interact with them straight away. What I'll talk briefly about then is the latest release of Flex. And if any of you are focused on SharePoint as a technology, you'll know that Microsoft made a big launch in May around the future of SharePoint. The Vice President, a guy by the name of Jeff Tepper, who ICS met with when he came into the UK on his world tour after this particular launch, basically announced a whole series of updates and improvements to SharePoint, both SharePoint 2016, which was released in March, and Office 365 SharePoint Online. So we have been following those announcements with interest. Part of our value is our close relationship with Microsoft and being able to take advantage of any new features that they bring out. So I just want to take you through quickly what the next release or the current release of Flex covers. Briefly, we're effectively on to version 3 of Flex since we brought this product out. And as you can see, we've been focusing around really 4 areas: the intranet, collaboration and processes, the user experience and automation. The Neon edition of Flex, which will be out early next year, will be based on the announcements that have come out of Microsoft, and which will follow at the SharePoint conference that our team are going to in September. So the 3 key features, and I'll demonstrate these features, is a best-of-breed intranet. So we've had a look at a number of products that are out there. The point on the right-hand side is really to say that there is now a category of out-of-the-box solutions for customers to purchase that speed up their deployment of SharePoint-based assets. Most of our customers are typically seeing something like a 60 to 70% reduction in the time it takes to implement a solution, and we're looking at saving significant money, particularly in the ongoing administration. But if we look at the intranet capability, we've looked at those other third-party products that are out there. We've looked at the Nielsen report. So the Nielsen report is an annual award for the best intranet. 9 out of 10 of those intranets are based on SharePoint. So it's a good place to look, and we've added in a number of features that we think are appropriate. So I'll demonstrate that new intranet for you so you can see it. We've taken self-service collaboration and we've enhanced it. So the idea of self-service has been very strong. Customers like the Bank of England asked ICS to build a solution for them way back in 2007, 2008. So the idea of end-user self-service, the provisioning of SharePoint workspaces so that the end users can collaborate without the need to go to IT time and time again for each instance of a template, is a very powerful mechanism. The challenge from an IT perspective is the governance and the management of those sites. And the good news is that with Flex, we build in your governance rules. So how long does a site last? What's the storage allocation? What do I do with the content when the site has been finished? So you don't end up with what is commonly referred to as SharePoint sprawl. I think I prefer the term SharePoint shantytown, because that's really what we can end up with if we're not careful, if we go self-service. What we've done with next generation self-service is not only give your end users the ability to provision simple or complicated sites, workspaces, but we've given you the ability to make changes to those workspaces as the owner of the site, and that means that you can save some of the save elements into your workspace and then publish that so that other users can take advantage of your work, and I'll show that to you in the demonstration. So on that point, I'm going to move into the software now. So let me just come out of the slides, go into the browser. Hope that the site is still up and running. Excellent. Okay, so what you're seeing now is the SharePoint or the Flex intranet that we've built. I talked earlier about the automation software. So what we've asked SharePoint to do is to run the Build Me an Intranet app that we have in our Flex home page. Now this is not generally one for the end users, obviously, because we don't want them building intranets, but the point here is that we can build very, very complicated sites, and you can see here that we've got a fully blown intranet, and I'll take you through all the different sites that we've got, and you can see we've also got content. Intranets aren't very exciting without content. So not only has Flex created the structure that you're looking at, the layout, it's created the information architecture, the taxonomy, it's added a mobile UI to the site, which I'll show you in a minute. It's also taken content and created it for us as well so that we can do that. And from start to finish, that is running the job, getting Flex to deploy the solution to Office 365. It's about 15-20 minutes. So when we engage with our customers on day one, this is what we turn up with. So we don't go through a long-winded requirements gathering process. We have software, it's ready to go, it's configured, and what we do is work with you to configure it to your specific requirements. That's worked really well for a mutual customer with Bytes. That's a company called Southern Water. They are refreshing their intranet, and they have taken effectively the Flex product as it stands, as you see it today. They've obviously put all their own content, and they've changed the layout to match what they are after, added their branding. But in terms of their intranet, we started working with them in March, and they, at the end of June, took the solution from a roadshow point of view around all of the major offices down on the South Coast to show to their employees and staff what the new intranet is going to look like, and they're launching it later this month. So, you know, rapid deployment of a solution without the need to go through a long-winded requirements gathering is one of the key benefits of Flex. So what you can see here is I've got my home page, I've got headline news, I've got my events, I've got a small alert there so that people can see there's something going on in Bishopstoke. There's obviously a water main burst. That was obviously done for the demo that we did for Southern Water. I've got my quick links off to other business applications, not Office 365 applications. I've got a people search, and you can see here now I've got a couple of things. I've got an action center, so these are all of the sites that I belong to, and these are the most recent documents that have been published to the sites, and you can see that there are a lot of sites here, mainly from a point of view of demo purposes, but I can quickly get to content that I'm interested in. You can also see that I've got a document finder. All of these web parts that are on the page are customizable, configurable, and then down the bottom here we've got our floating action button, or FAB button as it's referred to. This is basically where I can, is global navigation, so this follows me around wherever I go, and it also makes sure that I can get back to where I need to go. SharePoint still hasn't got a fantastic navigation capability, so you know, sometimes if you go down into the structure, it's sometimes difficult to get back up. So the global nav followed me around, and if I just make the screen a bit smaller, just so that you can see, so we've got a responsive design here. So I'm now in a 2-column layout, and if I were to make the site even thinner, I then get a sort of smartphone layout, and if Cassie's laptop had touchscreen, I could navigate using the touchscreen because the buttons are now designed for finger-friendly use. So you can see that my navigation has gone off the top. I've got the capability to move around the intranet in the same sort of way. So all the global navigation is now into drop-down menus, and I've got a single column. And the corporate comms team can determine what order that this content appears in. So this is all customizable there. You can see that the alert is fairly low down in the site. In terms of layout, look and feel, if I also then go to a slightly different view of this homepage, if I go to our colored news homepage, it's very easy for us to configure it. So when we do the implementation that we did for Southern Water, we showed them a number of the different options, and we worked with their corporate comms team to come up with a layout and design. But you can see here that we've got colored themes. Some customers like this idea, so they know that headlines are in orange, events are in blue, people are green, action and documents are colors, and we have a customer, Telecity, who used that particular approach to provide navigation metaphors and help people. But you can also see here that we've now put that news alert right across. We've got all the things you would expect on an intranet. We've got news and events. We've also got a series of capabilities here. So what I've got here is the document Finder. So what we're seeing here are all published documents. So one of the critical things that we want to be able to do with an intranet is to manage the content. So obviously it's all approved before it's published, and that applies to documents. So not only do we have documents here that I can see through this one single view, and as you can see on the right-hand side, I can basically search and filter. So I've got the ability to say, right, okay, well, I'm in the finance department, I only want to see finance-based documents. Now those documents have been created in collaboration workspaces, and then through a formal publishing mechanism that Flex provides, we're able to then publish those documents out as effectively 1.0 versions of the document, go through an approval process, and then those basic documents are available for people to search and find through the intranet. Just taking a quick drink there. So the ability here to have people do self-service collaboration and create documents is one thing, but then when we publish to the intranet, we want to make sure that they only find one version of the truth. So our document hub feature in Flex, in effect, enables people to publish content, and then for that content to be approved and that content to be surfaced. And that content is available throughout the intranet because we've tagged it, and we've tagged it against location, audience, and type. So from that perspective, although this document is in a finance area, what we've done is we're able to publish documents, keep one copy of them, and make that copy appear to be available to users through different areas. So if I look at our hubs feature, and here you can see I've created a children's services hub, what we've got is any content that has been tagged in the system as relating to children's services will appear in this particular page. Now you can see here I've not just got documents, but I've got events, posts, news items. The idea of a hub then is something that you might want to put on your home page of your intranet because it's important to the organization. Dorset County Council used the hub feature to publish information about their critical change projects that they're running. The chief exec's got a big change program going on over the next couple of years, and they're using that hub feature to surface all of the content that's been created in SharePoint and in the intranet, and making that visible to everybody in the organization. Her driver here is really to make sure everyone knows what's going on, everyone is part of the program in one way or another, and she wants to make sure that that's really easy to find. So anytime you browse to a hub, and in this case it's children's services, any new content that anybody's added, whether it was Andy who was speaking earlier, whether it was Cassie who organized the event, if she's busy creating content and publishes it up, it would then appear in this particular location once it had been searched and crawled by SharePoint Online. And the great news about SharePoint Online search is that that search is now continuous. It's happening all the time, so any new content that's added will appear in this location within a couple of minutes. So you have this very rich and capable mechanism for building your information architecture into Flex really, really easily. And I'll show you that now because it's really critical that that piece is understood. What we're effectively doing with Flex is we're putting everything into one big content database behind the scenes, and then we're tagging it, and by tagging it we're making it appear in different locations. There is only one article on Superfast broadband, or there is only one document entitled policy on paternity leave, but it appears to be in several different locations from a user's perspective, because what we've got to deal with this software is the fact that people all work differently. They all basically navigate and search for information. People like just a search bar, top right corner. People also like the idea of, if you like, browsing, so going through from the HR department to policies and procedures to paternity. Or they might just go to the document hub and type paternity. So we've got to cater for that. What we're doing here is tagging content and making it available to the user for that particular approach. So let me just bring up a news article and show you how we deal with that taxonomy. One of the other things that we've done with Flex is we've created a series of templates. All of the pages that you've seen that I've been navigating through are based on Flex templates. We provide three of each design, three different designs for each type, so that you can particularly choose from that. We're working with a customer at the moment who are going to basically build their own templates because they happen to have that kind of capability in their corporate comms team. It's really up to you to decide as to whether you take our designs or do your own. Benefit of taking our designs is that it speeds up the process. And if I just go to the right page here and see if I can find it for you, then I can show you that capability. So let me just put the page into edit mode so that you can see how the page is structured. So this layout is designed so that anybody who's a content author will be able to create content without the need to actually be trained. One of the big deals that we're worrying about here is the fact that lots of people need to create content to keep an intranet alive and available. So we've created a series of Flex templates that are very, very simple. So you can see here that we've got the title. I was going to show you the template pages, so if I give you the page layout drop down, what you'll see there are the different Flex templates that come with the software when you buy it. So, you know, if you really want to get an intranet up and running in 2 months, and from our perspective, that's exactly what Flex is designed to do. If you work with our existing templates and we work with you to do the design, the layout, to apply the branding, to put your information architecture into the software, then we can definitely get this up and running in 2 months, as we have done with Southern Water. So there you can see the different templates that we got to select from. I was talking about the Flex architecture. So we've got a framework, a SharePoint framework that sits between SharePoint Online and Flex. And that architecture basically allows us to publish and manage content. It also gives you massive flexibility, pardon the pun, that if you wanted to change the structure of Flex and how the information is displayed of your intranet, let's say you want to move away from a traditional departmental structure and you want to focus more around the actual processes in your organization, because we've got a taxonomy built into Flex that you just need to modify, we're in a position where we can basically ensure that what Flex then displays from a page perspective is just modified within the Flex backend, and then it'll then basically publish the content in a different way. So you can see here we've got our news category, and we've got audience, and we've got function and location, and basically all of the content that is in the intranet, documents, pictures, articles, web HTML content is all tagged against that. And if I show you the taxonomy that we have built into the software, you can see that it's all ready to go. This version of Flex is our local government SKU, so that means that it's got a local government taxonomy in it. That gives you a chance to, in effect, speed up the development of that, and we don't have to spend lots of time worrying about what that is. And here you can see what those different taxonomy terms are. So that helps us tag the content, make sure that it fits into the appropriate location, and that is enforced by the solution, so that we can make these mandatory or not. So you can see these articles are nice and simple to modify and update. They've got a standard layout. We've got some clever software that in SharePoint that means that when you take one picture, you can create a series of what are called renditions, and there's a complete photo library at the back end of Flex, so that you can create nice content in an easy to publish mechanism. So I'm just going to leave that page now and go back to the home page. So if we then were to look at something like the directories, one of the things that's always popular is a people directory. So we're able to do an import from Active Directory and then into SharePoint use profiles, or if you have been using Office 365 and you've got the people profiles, we can pull that through. This is showing you a card layout. Again, we've got content on the left, search on the right, so we've got all the refinement panels. The refinement panels are all consistent, so people know what's going on. If we had several of these users logged in to the tenant, their instant messaging and Skype would light up, so I would be able to chat to Annabelle. But if I just want to quickly see what Annabelle's got in her profile, which is not a lot, I can click that button. So let me just find someone who's got a bit more information in, so let's just do a search for Chris. So, and if I go to Chris Pettigrew, what you'll see is Chris has actually gone in and updated his profile. So this is something that we really encourage you to do. We really encourage your users to come into their Office 365 profile and to basically sort out, add in information about what they've got as skills and interests, past projects, because we want to create a people directory that is also a skills and expertise search. The days of just finding a telephone number and email address have gone. What we really want to do is get people to put in information about what they do. give you an example, we worked with a company called Doosan Babcock. They're an engineering organization, and one of their big challenges when they make nuclear power stations is they create quite a lot of documentation. And so they thought they had this great idea that we'll put all of the documentation into SharePoint, we'll search it, it'll be findable, that'll be great. But there was just so much of it. We said to them that, you know, the project was going to take too long, cost too much money. So what we said to them is, well, you know, look, wouldn't it be better if we actually make the people search part of this work, so that, you know, the expert who knows about that particular capability within a nuclear power station, and obviously there are several hundred of them, why don't we just get them to put their skills and ability into the system, and we do a people search, and then through the person we connect the person who's looking for the right document to the content. And that worked really well, but it only works well when people put that content in there. So we recommend that you get people to put their picture in. You know, we can pull through things like email, work phone, who they work for, structures from Office 365 and Active Directory, but we really want to put skills in. Another example was that I'm not brilliant at Excel, so I was fighting my way through Excel support trying to do some pivot tables. But what I was able to do was a search in here around pivot tables, and turns out that Chris here was an expert in pivot tables, and he only sat a couple of desks away from me. I didn't really know Chris as a colleague, you know, he obviously works for the same company, but I was able to approach him and get him to help me with that. Now his job at the moment doesn't involve doing anything with pivot tables. He just happened to have pivot table experience from a previous career. So it's really important that we can do stuff like search and find. And then finally, I just wanted to show you quickly buildings. So if you have lots of offices and you want people to be able to find where those offices are, we've got the ability to bring up things like office locations, and we can integrate maps, so you get a nice rich experience that you would expect. So there you are, you can see where ICS is based in Basingstoke, just off Skippett's Lane. So I'm going to stop the intranet demo there, and I'm going to move now to the collaboration and how that works. So what I've done now is I've browsed to my home page. Now this is my Flex home page, because this is where I do my collaboration. So the way we do self-service in Flex is we make it like a smartphone. So the idea of a smartphone, when you use an app on a smartphone, is you do one thing, you go to a store. Now, once you're in that store, you do a search, you find what you're looking for, you install the app onto your home page on your smartphone, and then you use your app. And that's exactly the same metaphor that we've got for Flex Collaboration. So we've got a number of pre-built workspaces. Remember I talked about those blueprints earlier? Some of those blueprints are actually collaboration workspaces, and they are apps that appear in a store. So we've got a store where I can go and browse apps that do different collaboration activities. And here you can see the App Store. Now, for customers like Dorset and for customers like Sunderland City Council, they are going to curate the App Store. And by that I mean the IT department are going to control what apps appear in the site. They're not going to let users just go and create their own at this particular point in time. There's going to be a series of apps. So as you can see, we've only got about 12 apps to choose from. They're all for different types of collaboration activity, and they've got a description on them. So what I will do is quickly just show you what this looks like. So you know, it's just like an app store. So I open the app, I get a description of what the app does. You can see here that we've added storage and security. So we've started to build in the governance to your collaboration. You know, I talked earlier about shanty towns. It's really, really important that we make sure that we don't end up with that. Sites that are created, sites that are not then updated, and the whole search becomes cluttered with stuff that's out of date. We really need to control this. We control through Flex storage, security, and longevity, but we can then build in your governance rules. So for example, we can say that once the site has been finished, we're going to put the site into read-only, make all the documents records, and switch auditing on. So those sort of capabilities can be extended. We haven't done this in the base product because each customer is different, but the idea is I come in, I read about what the site does, I click the start button, and I'm presented with a simple form. This form is basically available, it can be configurable. You can see that we've got sites, we've got open, closed, and private, so the user is prompted to describe what the site is for. We recommend that all sites are open unless they absolutely shouldn't be. Now obviously if the Board of directors have a site for collaborating because they all use iPads and they all need to access their content that way. Then that's fair enough. That site can be private. But for general purpose collaboration, we want everything to be open because the sites need to be searchable and findable. If that is the case, then I might be able to share my knowledge with my colleagues. I won't do this right now because I've done one earlier, but the idea is that I go through that process, I select go, and the app is then created. It can go through workflow. We've got a problem there. So let me just, I've had a timeout, sorry about that. So let me just go back to the home page. Let's see if that's going to take me to the intranet. Yeah, so I will just have to refresh that page, so bear with me. While I do that, I went on it before I started the event, but the site has timed out. Terrific. Let's retry it. No, okay, so bear with me folks while I just log into the site again. So I just need to log into the site again because it's timed out while I was on it. There we go, let's see if that's worked. No, I can't get to the site, I'm afraid. Okay, so let's just go back. So now, earlier on I was talking about the publishing of that site. So I talked about sites. So here we've got a Workspace Directory. So all of the sites that are open, as you saw in that earlier screen, now appear in this particular location. So these are all the sites that the collaboration workspaces that have been selected as open. If I search here for webinar, you can see here there's a site. I don't know if you saw earlier while I was on the Flex homepage that there was a new instance of a workspace that I created earlier today. So the good news is that the site's been created, search in SharePoint has crawled it, and what it's found, and it's published that site because it's open, and you can see it's here. So I'm going to navigate to the site through that way. So although I would normally have navigated through my Flex homepage, which is the one I had the problems with, you can see here now I've got a site. So what Flex has done is it's run through the process of creating a site. The template has been selected, so the site has been put up based on the template that we've chosen, and as you can see, this looks nothing like SharePoint. So this is what we call a zero training site. So a zero training site is really all about the idea of a site that people will be able to use for mass collaboration. We're not going to be able to train everybody in your organization on how to use SharePoint. It can be complicated, etc. Now, this site, as you can see, looks nothing like SharePoint, and that's on purpose. We're trying to make it really simple and easy for anybody in the business to use. We also think this is a really good template from a point of view of the external collaboration, because obviously you can't train people who are outside of your organization on SharePoint either. So what I've done is I've created the site. You can see this morning at 11 o'clock I put some content into the site. You can see I've got 5 documents. So this site is to do with webinars. So you can see I've got a delegate list, I've got a one-page overview, I've got a little demo script, I've got a PowerPoint and a PDF. So I'm showing you different types of documents. I've got some really simple things that I can do with it. I can download it, I can share it, share a link, I can edit it in the browser, and I can bin it. So again, very much a very easy to navigate environment. You can see here that I've gone in and I've created a link, and there's a link to the Flex website, flexautomation.net, and I've created a task which is basically that we need to agree a schedule of events. And I might, if I'd had time this morning before on, I might have gone into the calendar and created the information. But the idea here is that I, as the owner of the site, can put it together, and then what I can do is I can click the share button here, and then I can share it with Cassie and with Claire and with Andy and the other people I'm collaborating with. And what they'll do is they'll get a link to the site that they can then work with me on doing that. That makes it very, very easy for me to do. And as you can see at the bottom here, I have this ability to manage the site. So I can actually go in and edit the site. So I was talking earlier about self-service collaboration and the ability for me to add my own content into the site without going back to IT. Well, this is where I can do that. Now, you can see here that only a short list of capabilities. I haven't got the full features of SharePoint available to me because of the way it works. We aren't able to do that. But this gives me enough capability within the product to add a whole bunch of different items to this particular site. If I can, I'm going to add a discussion. I'm going to call it webinar series, and I'm going to basically create it, and then that item's done. So the idea here is that I'm the owner of the site. I have certain abilities within SharePoint to do that. The good news from an IT point of view, I might be the owner of the site, but if you are familiar with SharePoint and what SharePoint owner means, that means I can delete the site, change the colors, all those sorts of things. Well, we've taken those functions away. So when the site was created by Flex, it's basically removed a number of the ribbon features so that I cannot access them at all. So I don't have the ability to go in and play with the site definitions and build it all. So that's really the benefit of Flex. We can provision simple sites that are very easy to use. So Sunderland City Council, for example, are rolling out self-service collaboration to everybody in their business using this particular template, because from that standpoint, they are able to show a nice simple home page. I can see that there's a timeline for the site, so I can quickly see what's going on. I can see what content's there, and the search is still crawling the content because otherwise it would have found that those were recently added into the site. So what we've got here is the ability for me as an owner to create a site from a self-service experience, selecting from a series of apps that IT have put in there. That app store is all security trimmed, so I only get to see apps that as a user, I'm able to provision. And you can see here a simple UI that everybody in your organization should be able to take advantage of. Because what we're trying to do with this capability is we're trying to make it appropriate for every person in your organization to use SharePoint and Office documents to collaborate. We're trying to get people out of file shares and out of email, because the benefits of multi-party collaborating when the documents in SharePoint are significant, and this is what we can do. I also talked about mobile earlier, so if I, sorry, the wrong button. If I basically then click you can see we've got a single timeline. So not only do I get a view of my documents, I just really get the smartphone view, so I can get at my content even when I'm on the go. And obviously it detects devices, so if I've got a laptop or a tablet, let's say, in portrait mode, it knows I'm going to be probably typing content because I'll have a keyboard, so it basically will put the software into standard format. If I use my tablet in landscape mode, sorry, portrait mode, I got those two wrong. If I use it in portrait mode, then that basically enables me to view the content without a keyboard, so it puts it into the sort of finger-friendly view. So that's what we have around self-service collaboration, and the idea is that these sites can be created. Now, I'm a site owner. What I can also do is I can actually save this site back into the App Store for my colleagues to use. So I could probably come in here and create some documents. I could maybe create some templates. I might add in, as you saw earlier, I've got a document in here which is the delegate list. So what, every time we run an event, I want my team to use one of these sites for the content, and I've given them some of the Word and Office templates that make that possible. I can then go back in and I can save this site back into the App Store and call it the webinar site, so that if Cassie were running an event next week with somebody else, then she'd be able to go into the App Store, find the webinar site that I've, as the marketing manager, have said that we need to use for this particular process, and she would be able to create a new instance of it for that particular technology. Let's say they were doing a session with Microsoft about threat management and the E5 SKU, then this gives the ability to sort out the this gives the ability for us to set up a series of apps for different types of collaboration within the business. So as a marketing manager and the owner of this particular process, I know what I want my team to do. I know how I want them to follow the process. I can go into this particular version of one of our sites. I can add some items. I can create particular assets. I can save it back into the store, and then all of my team can use it for it to do that particular kind of work. So that's where I'm going to leave the demo at this particular point. I'm going to go back into the slides and just summarize, and then we'll get into some questions and answers for you. So one of the key benefits around the intranet is the speed of deployment. I talked about Southern Water. I've talked about some of the other customers like Dorset County Council. Southern Water really have done the project. They've done it in slightly more than 60 days, but to be honest, that wasn't anything to do with Flex. That was really availability of the resources at their side. Rich functionality from day one is really important, and that was a massive factor for Sunderland City Council. Sunderland had started the journey on SharePoint with a partner that Microsoft had recommended. That partner had gone in and had delivered a traditional consultancy engagement, so they'd gone in and asked the customer what did they want. The customer said, well, what does it do? And they'd gone around that requirements loop. And unfortunately for Sunderland, they had a deadline looming with their systems. They had to get off an unsupported version of Windows Server. That meant that they couldn't continue down this route of trying to figure out the requirements. They found ICS and Flex through the Intranets. We set them up with a call with Dorset County Council, and they made the decision to remove their current incumbent supplier and go with ICS and Flex. That rich functionality from day one was a big reason for doing that, because we have it all set up. We're now only worrying about 20% of the functionality to turn it into something that's specific for them, which reduces the risk of failure, and it means that the services investment is significantly smaller. A traditional intranet sprint for Flex is in the region of 20 days of services. So we can rapidly reduce the time and cost of deploying it. We can make it easier to use by increasing the user adoption, and we think we're able to avoid the boom and bust of continuing to go around the cycle of replacement. Around collaboration, it's really critical that it's simple. We can't afford to train everybody in your business. We advocate mass adoption first. So traditionally, SharePoint would have been piloted in IT, and then you would have gone to a business department and said, what do you want to do with SharePoint? You know, what's your collaboration needs? And they would build something. What we're saying is, well, actually, no, roll out simple self-service collaboration using those templates, those simple templates that you saw earlier. Get them out there, get people using them, get people out of file shares and emails. By all means, continue to do that, to do the complicated stuff. That's exactly what we did with Computer Center. So they've just gone live with their SharePoint on-premise Flex installation. They've got self-service collaboration for all 20,000 staff. But in parallel, we built them a very complicated portal that had a whole bunch of specific and series specific capabilities built into it, and Flex automates the provisioning of that site. Now that is a complex development project. You know, it required us to sit down and understand what they were trying to do, but we did the two in parallel. Clearly they can be tailored to your own governance, compliance and security needs, and you can add your own apps if you have those skills, but we'll continue to add them. And finally, end user self-service with governance is really the critical component here. So we were going to talk about why Flex. For us, the benefits are substantial. We can support 365 on-prem, private cloud or hybrid. From our perspective, it doesn't matter. You choose the platform that's best for your business. Most of our customers are on Office 365, but as I said earlier, Computer Center have chosen to go on-premise. User experience and getting people to use this software is critical to getting good value out of your Microsoft licenses. We make that simple and intuitive. Evergreen is an important part of Office 365. Obviously, Microsoft will continue to make changes all the time to the software. We will continue to update Flex and keep it in lockstep with Office 365, and we'll provide you with free updates through the license period as part of your license agreement. And you know, that point about the 80% is really important. You know, most of our customers do want to do the same sorts of things. We've pre-built 80% of those things for you so that we only spend our time on the 20%. So if you're interested in what Flex can offer your organization, whether it's collaboration first or intranet first, or perhaps it's both, how would you go about working with ICS and Bytes? Well, the first thing to do would be to request more information from your Bytes accounts manager, and we've got an email address that's coming up in a minute. We can then provide you with perhaps access to another one of these events, or we can provide you with a private webinar where we can look specifically at your requirements. Maybe you and your colleagues can explore with us a little bit in more depth and specific to what you're trying to do, and to see, you know, whether Flex is a good fit. We can obviously provide you with a quote. Flex is available through a number of frameworks that Bytes are on. We can provide you with the licensing agreement so you can review it. And finally, if you've got fast-track funding through your Office 365 purchase, or you've got deployment planning service days, then we're able to help deliver proof of concepts and production-ready pilots if that's something that you want to particularly explore. If you want more information, you can email tellmemore@bytes.co.uk. And with that, we'll move over to questions. So I'm just going to bring out the section and go to questions. So if you wouldn't mind typing anything in there. Right, so if you've got any questions, please feel free to type them into the box. They'll come up on the screen and we'll answer those for you as we go. So one of the things we quite often get asked by customers is how does the Flex license work? So we're typically talking about a 3 or a 5 year contract. Most of our customers are aligning it with their Office 365 purchases. And during that contract period, we will then provide you with free Flex updates. So we're doing about 2 updates a year at the moment. You saw our roadmap in terms of what's coming down the line with Microsoft. That might be slightly more than that, but we'll basically work with you. We'll let you know when an update is available. I have 2 customers at the moment, Servomex and Malvern Instruments. They're both manufacturing organizations. And what they do is they are both using Intranet and Collaboration. So we're looking to roll out the Carbon version for them in the next month or 2. We will run it on our demo tenant here at ICS to make sure that it's all working, and then we'll help them deploy it to the production environment. They get a full set of release notes, and we'll do that for each version of Flex. You don't have to take it. We're not going to force changes on you, unlike Microsoft in some cases where you have no choice but to accept those changes to 365. We won't be doing that in the case of Flex. However, if you get too far behind, we will want you to update so that the version you're on is the latest and greatest. All of the update work that we're doing, all of the investment we're doing to keep Flex up to date with Office 365, to add new features and capabilities to it, all of that investment is paid for by ICS. So far, we've probably spent around £3 million building the Flex software over the last 2.5 years. So it's a significant investment from our perspective, and we will continue to invest heavily in the software because it's good for our customers. It's also good for Microsoft because they see it as a way of getting customers using technology. Okay, we don't seem to have any questions. Anybody want to ask anything? The software is priced per user per month, and you can see some outline pricing on the flexautomation.net website to give you that idea. But we've got customers large and small using the software. We've got a company, I mentioned Servomex, they've got 380 users. I also mentioned Computer Center, they've got over 20,000. So the software is extremely useful for all types of organizations. So anyone who's looking to really accelerate their deployment of an intranet or collaboration solution and who have got SharePoint on-premise or SharePoint online, then you should be able to take advantage of it. Okay, I don't think we're going to get any questions, so I think we're going to close the session out. We will have the recording available to you, and I'd like to thank you for attending.